Serenaded. Has anybody heard about the serenades? Mansell knows about serenades, right? He was involved in the serenades. Can you tell us about that? Charlotte's already told us her side of the story.
Well, I know they're going to serenade them at night because we lived upstairs from Marvin and Charles. We lived up the apartment. And I know that they're going to do it, so I was all right. We had a lot of fun. And so they all left. And I know they're coming back. I know that, say. So we was in bed upstairs. I was about 1 o'clock, was it?
Yeah.
About 1 o'clock. Heard all this noise out there, and they were working around there and holler. And we just laid in bed and laughed, say. There's a bit, boom! Howard Shan's father, old Howard, he put his gun on the windowsill downstairs, right up where our bedroom man, shot right through the window upstairs. Well, you know me. I come out of bed, but I didn't go put my head too far out the window.
Were you upset? Were you upset, Mansell?
Worse than that. I used some very nice words to him.
Strong language.
Strong, and I meant it too. They left though in a hurry. But that Charlotte never forgot that.
But does everybody know what this? A lot of people. Does everybody know what a serenade is?
They call them shiveries.
Yeah, yeah, sometimes called
Were
that.
you serenaded?
Shiveries.
Yes, they were. They were serenaded.
You were serenaded too. Tell us about your serenade.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
Big time.
Let me see.
Remember, I guess about 2 weeks, I don't know, anyway, they came and they got us. And they had a tractor with a cart behind it, and they put us in this cart, and they took us all over the countryside. And then we come home, and I guess they had all their noisemakers before they did that. And we came home, and I guess they had refreshments, and that's about the only thing I remember.
Oh, yours wasn't that exciting then.
Show me who did it. Who did it?
The neighbors.
Marvin and Charlotte and all the neighbors.
Everybody in Fines Manor.
Well, the minister was the ringleader on that. Remley. Merlin Remley.
Charlotte, I was at yours, and I think it was because were you there, Joyce? It was like the young people from the church, maybe Christian Endeavor or something.
At Charles?
So I was, yeah.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Thompson, you were serenaded.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember yours?
Big time. I was still living down home then.
Okay, down that.
Before I moved up here. Yeah, we had a big time. Everybody was serenaded back then.
Mm-hmm.
That was standard procedure.
But the thing that made the most
You know,
noise was
I'll tell you about
Huh?
those songs.
I'll show you.
Circular song.
I'll show you the one I got hanging up.
Oh, circular saw.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
they used
one,
to
yeah.
have cut wood with a circular saw, and it's a big blade about that big around, and they put it on a wire, didn't they?
Yeah, you'd beat on it. Oh, it made a big noise.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And frying pans, they bring frying pans.
I know the saw blade was.
I got it hanging up down there in the shed.
Now, does anyone remember the post office
Yeah,
on
they did.
Fernwood
No, I
Road?
know. No. I know where it was though.
On Fernwood Road.
Right there up in Daleville. I built the right there at the church, the school. Wait a minute. For the Grange in our house,
Okay.
there used to be a big building there.
We have a picture of that back here, right, George?
I think you do.
Yeah.
There was a post office in there, and I think the blacksmith shop, and had a voting place in there and everything.
Was that the post office, Jim? That's the Londonderry post
Right there
office?
along the edge of
Well,
what would be.
I heard that it was out here like past the cemetery.
That's your school. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what Preacher Ralph told me I did most of them one time. I don't know.
Shade school. It looks like it's.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
I don't think.
Oh, it was the Fags Manor Post Office.
There was another one.
There was another one?
In this picture was a carriage shop.
Mm-hmm.
It was there for a while.
Okay.
So I didn't realize that there were two others beside
I didn't
that,
know
or
it either.
Maybe they kept moving it around.
I think it depended on who the postman was, they had it in their store, their house, or whatever.
I think they had none.
Long boys.
They ran out.
I wonder how much is fact or fiction.
When I saw it, for some reason, I think it was in Mason, when it was up here, that was the last one, and then they went in with Cochran.
Oh, okay. Now, how long ago was that?
Well, I don't know.
Oh,
So it
okay.
had to be quite a while.
Okay, okay.
Well, this picture of it, I keep going this way. The
That
picture of
wouldn't
the
be
carriage
fault
shop, the
indicator,
carriage
would it?
shop was torn
We
down
know.
when the automobile replaced the carriage.
Mm-hmm.
So, whenever that was, before that, that's when the post office was there. So it wasn't a while ago.
Now, I have a question for you. What was made up there at your home? Were the hearses made up there? Did you have funerals up there? Did you embalm bodies up there? We have all
Yeah, I
kinds of
did
stories.
all that.
We have all kinds of thoughts when we have the meetings, but we don't really know what happened there.
They made carriages, they built carriages.
Okay.
But it was always felt that the hearse probably was built there.
Mm-hmm.
Because all those hearses and things, big carriages like that, usually had a name on it, a plate someplace. And this one didn't, so they figured, well, he didn't put a plate on his own hearse, that's all. There was a place upstairs in what we called the shop that was made from the carriage shop. When they tore it down, they built this shop up by the house. It's still there. It's a garage at the bottom. And my grandfather used to, what he called, trim the caskets there. He would buy the frame, the casket, and then he would put the lining and so forth in it. That was to avoid the mercantile tax. Yeah, right. But there was not a funeral home there. There were no such things as funeral homes in this area back then.
All the funerals
Because
are.
they were either at the home or the church.
Oh, okay.
Viewings usually were at the home.
Mm-hmm.
And my uncle Ralph, when I was very young, made his private home into a funeral home in the middle of West Road. And that was when things started to go the way they are now.
So that was like the first
Yeah.
funeral home around here.
Right.
Oh, okay. And I have a story about Mr. Thompson. We've been here 31 years, and we always want to be the last ones in. Everybody knows that. With the new development, even Charlotte knows, people that have just moved into the subdivisions come over and say, I didn't know they were going to build anything across the street from me. I thought they weren't going to do any more developing, but they do. Well, we live in a new house, and you came to plow our garden one time. We asked you to plow our garden right after we moved there,
I forget that.
and he said to me, how do you like it out here? And I said, we just love it. We just love it. He said, well, you people are the ones that are causing all the problems.
This is a picture of our farm. Joseph and Joan Pearson moved up with their two sons from Hocassin, Delaware in the year 1961. This is at the end of Fags Manor Road, which is right here. This is Route 41. This is the farmhouse. This was the old carriage house. This was the barn. This was originally a drover's inn. The drovers were kept separate from the regular travelers. This is not there anymore. It was torn down. There was a dirt road directly across from Fags Manor Road, which went back into the next township. It was never paved. Nobody really used it except for farm implements because you couldn't get across the creek. It has since been closed. This house had a dirt cellar floor, had 3 giant fireplaces in that were originally used as the kitchen for the inn. And it had the first floor, which had 3 fireplaces in it, had the upstairs with the 3 bedrooms, a small entrance hall that came up from a winding staircase from the kitchen, off of the main floor, and wound right on up into the attic, which was high, about 8 foot in the peak. It was completely floored in concrete, and which was supposed to be for purposes of safety in case there was ever a fire shot from the Indian arrows. What else? Okay.
That's a really great picture.
You remember that blacksmith shop? No?
I didn't get here till '62. I'm new.
Oh, Bob, but you remember it.
Yeah, I was here in 1941.
Well, then you remember the blacksmith shop.
Right.
Where was it? At the corner of 926 and Fernwood Road?
Who had it, Bob?
I don't know, I just know Lawrence Baker used to, his dad owned a farm.
How about Johnson?
And they used to ride the workhorses up there.
Jackson?
And get them shot.
Oh, Howard Jackson had it in 1930. A Parker had it in 32, and a Chester Wooderson in 34, and a Vandalier in 35. It sold a lot.
Yeah, you keep them on, didn't you?
No. 41 was Wooderson, and Pyle in 44, and a Johnson in 55, and Kerms, George Kerm is the one we bought it from in 60. Oh no, that was 64, and then we bought it from Silverberg in 67.
I was living up at Beals in that little house where Beals living now. And I don't know, it was 1956 or 1958. And I had a little Plymouth car I went back for to the farm. It was over here where I live now. And I got out, got up around 4:30 and went outside, and the snow was about that deep, and I thought, well, forget the car. So I put my boots on, started out across the field, and I got down back of Lindsay Registry barn, and it was snowing so hard that I got lost. I didn't know where I was. I was scared.
Yep.
Because I was really scared, and it was snowing so hard. And I finally got over to Elkins's fence line, and I followed the fence line up to 926 and crossed the road, and there used to be a couple evergreen trees, one right across from where that new house is. And I got there, and the snow had blown around the tree, and the ground was bare, and I sat down. I was worn out. It was about waist deep then, I'm serious. And I rested a while, and I got on down the road, and there was another tree right across, up about 100 yards from my lane. And I laid down and rested there a while. And finally I got down to the barn, and the snow was so deep, we had double doors on the barn, top door, and the snow was level with the bottom door. And I just fell over in the barn. And I laid there for about 2 hours, I couldn't move. The snow was so deep that we had a post and rail fence, and you couldn't see it. The post and rail fence was covered. And we didn't know how we were gonna get the cows' milks. So we had a little old C tractor, and we put a petcock on it. And we dug up to the shed and got it down to the barn and run a water hose in there and ran one milker. And we finally got the cows. And I don't know how we got them watered. I don't think the electric went off, but we had a bulk tank, and we filled that, and we filled all our cans and put them in the snow, and we didn't lose a bit of milk. Mr. Baker was a supervisor, he was a chairman, and he had a fellow named Harry Jacobs up around Wagontown that had an excavating business. And whenever it snowed, he was first on the list to bring the front end loader down. And I don't know, it took a couple of weeks before we got everybody out, but the only way we could get the snow moved is with the track loader. I don't know if Claire was in on that or not.
That was before your time.
Probably was. I moved a lot of snow with my load.
Yeah, it was, I think it was 56 or 58.
I remember when we first came, Mr. Baker was the roadmaster and snow removal and everything, and stopping at Percy and Pearl's store, the country store out here. And they were the one people we did get to know that first year, and we'd stop every night on our way home from work and pick up the paper. And I don't know how many remember Pearl, but she was one of the sweetest, nicest people I ever knew, and we'd often pick up something for dinner. And one night I said, "What was there?" And she said, "Well, Percy just fixed me pork chops for supper." And Percy had trimmed all the fat and everything off, and she put them on the scale and sold them to me for the regular price. And that was what Pearl was like. But I remember going through there very early on when we moved in, and Bake always used to sit on the bench there in the store, and I didn't know who he was. But I remember saying, "You know, I don't care if I ever get plowed out, because we don't have cows and the trees will wait." And somebody said, "Well, you better wish you hadn't said that, because there's the guy that's going to plow people out."
Was Daleville store where
Yeah.
everybody?
And Pearl and Percy were wonderful.
How long did they have the store? Mary Ann, they were your aunt and uncle. How long did they have the store?
Well, I think Uncle Percy got it in the late 40s, and he run it up until Mr. Frank Hart,
Oh, okay.
and they started doing the sandwiches like in the later years,
Mhm.
like. But most of the time, it was just the general store when Uncle Percy had it.
And what did they sell?
Everything.
You
You name it,
cakes
they
with
had
fresh
it.
meat.
But I always wanted to know if Mr. Butler remembered anything about, like, when he first bought there at Daleville.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you, I mean, I know you lived in the house across the street some, but then did you buy the place from Uncle Percy, or how did you do that?
I bought from Percy, yeah.
Uncle Percy, I didn't know, but, so,
Yeah, it was a general store, and the cookies just sold them by the pound. They had big kegs of cookies, and you'd say, "Well, give me a pound of this and a pound of that." Then the pickle barrel and the candy case, and you sold bought candy by the pound
and
or by the
bologna and
piece.
cheese, sliced
1
up.
cent or 1 cent candy or something.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
had candy barrels.
It was really nice. And most of the people met there back. The supervisors were Wayne Wrigley and Kenner Henley, and Lawrence Baker was the chairman. And they were supervisors. I think he was supervisor for 28 years. I think.
Yeah, but
He was the
Bob, didn't
chairman.
they have the ones that worked on the roads too, didn't they, wasn't that kind of their
Well, that was
gathering place?
Mr. Alder.
Oh, Mr. Alder.
Yeah, Mr. Alder. You remember him?
Yeah,
He
but
lived over here?
I remember my brothers telling me that they used to play checkers or something there, that was kind of a gathering place for them, and they used to do this, and they'd be in there, talking and jawing and telling stories, but they worked on the roads, I thought.
Yeah, well, Mr. Alder dug the ditches by hand. And they mowed the road banks by hand. He worked full time and had an old 37, 39 Ford dump truck. And he lived over here, and every morning at 7 o'clock he'd come over to Mr. Baker's and then get his orders, and then he'd go out and a lot of ditches he dug by hand, cleaned pipes out by hand, and he was a worker.
Was that when my grandfather Everett Ryle, because he and Baker were pretty good buddies, and I wonder did he worked on the road at the same time as that, or do
I
you
only
know?
remember Mr. Alder.
You only remember,
We
okay.
saw that we were looking at some minutes in here today, and that was it, they owned it. I
Really?
didn't know that was your
Everett Ryle was my grandfather.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Percy's dad.
Okay.
Yeah, Percy.
Those are
memory
great.
of
Good
neighbors.
yourself.
You know, a lot of
My husband, Marvin and I used to live over here where my brother-in-law lives now, Wayne, here in Daleville, for the first 9 years we were married. And this is also about the snowstorm in '78. And it was, as I remember, it was like almost up to your waist. It was really bad. And we woke up this morning, I think it was around the 20th of March, it was right around spring. And Marvin walked over to the barn, and they had the cows to milk, and Tommy was just a baby, about 8 months old, I guess, and he was in his crib and we had no electricity, so I remember putting a hat on him and lots of clothes. And it was really scary, I thought, because there we were, and he had to milk over there and then come back, and he wasn't sure whether he'd get back or not. So in the meantime, Alan and David's dad and a very dear friend, Vic Reynolds, came over, and it took him, I don't know how long to get there, because the snow was almost waist high. And he came over to get us, to take us over to Mansell and Ruth's, Butler's, because they had a gas stove. And when Vic got there, I had blankets and bottles and all these different things I was going to take care of the baby. And Vic was saying, you know, it's not very cold out there today. You know, I don't think you need all these blankets. And he was exhausted when he got to our house, and then he carried him back over to Mansell and Ruth's. And we spent the night there, and we kept watching it. I mean, it took Marvin from when they finished milking in the morning until dark to get over here on the tractor. And his mother said, you don't need to come back, because we had heifers over here that they had to tend. So we spent the night in Mansell and Ruth's kitchen on a cot or something, I don't really remember. And Percy and Pearl had the store, so they said, we'll bring food. And Mansell and Ruth and everybody pitched in and cooked, and that's how we spent part of that snowstorm.
Philip, how many mills were there in Londonderry? There was the one over on Ewing Road.
My dad, we moved there in '43, and Leroy Light had a sawmill there. They had a 1530 International tractor, and I could still hear that thing. And the sawmill was open and had a Frick sawmill. I think it came from Arthur Young. And they had it fixed so the sawdust would go right down the old mill stream, right down the creek, and you could just see the sawdust looked like snakes going down through there, you know, in the water. It was kind of neat. But before that, there was a up and down sawmill, I guess, where the blade went up and down. And our barn burnt, according to the history I found in 1896. And the logs in our barn were sawed out in that mill. An older gentleman told me that. But it was very interesting going to that mill when I was a kid. I really, all the feed sacks would be in front, neighbors would be there, and on the way there you'd follow the mill race. And when the wind blowed, you could see the waves. It was really neat. It was cool, but it was cold in the wintertime. That was a cold place. And Charlie Flounder was a miller. He lived in the mill itself. And I think in 1948, they built a cover over the sawmill, the one on the outside. I have the pictures of it. And Charlie would sharpen lawnmower blades, or no, he didn't have lawnmower blades, and they had push mowers. He sharpened the push mowers. And mowing machine blades. We walked through the woods when I was a kid and carried them. And I remember steam shovels cleaning the mill race. And our well went dry. We, 56, we had to chop a hole in the ice and stopped on where Ewing Road crosses the mill. Where Ewing Mill, the mill race, we dipped the water out. And a lot of times the lids would be frozen on there when we got home. It was cold. That was a rough winter. But Leroy Light was a prominent man. He was active in a lot of, he was in the church and the interstate milk thing.
All the lumber from that mill came off of Leroy's place.
And yeah, they had the woods joins there for them. And it was really neat. Listen to the song over it. When Charlie Flounder died, I think it was in the 50s, early 50s, somewhere in there, the mill just, everything stopped, you know. But we're going in there, he had a place for everybody's slip, and he always kept it clean, and it was really interesting. It was a place. It was the place. Everybody's pickup was there. It was sort of like the store up here at the Hillville, you know. It was a neat place.
I can remember my father taking grain there to be ground with a horse and wagon, and we'd ride on the wagon with him to go there. And as I recall, and I remember thinking about how pretty the floorboards were, and it because they pulled these sacks of grain over it all the time, and they were completely polished.
Oh, wow.
And I wondered what ever happened to them. But the story about when you were talking about Charlie living right there, and he did. But I suppose his children went to Ramsey Schoolhouse probably. And one year there was a very heavy blizzard. And the children walking home to school, his daughter got home, but the little boy wasn't with her. And when they went out looking for him, they found him and he was dead.
Oh my
In the
gosh.
snow. And this
Oh,
would have been
wow.
years before me, I think so, but
Yeah.
it's been a long time ago.
Oh, wow. Now, where did everybody that lived in Londonderry go to school when they were in school?
Coates and Ramsey's and Whitehorse. And there was one other one called Forest
Shade.
Shade.
Over on Green Lawn.
And that was closed.
Mm-hmm.
While I was in grade school, I think.
Oh, okay.
So that would have been closed.
I remember Dave Light saying he went to Ramsey, of course,
Mhm.
and they used to come down to our spring house to get the water for the school.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, well, Forest Shade's gone, but the other ones are still here, but they're all houses.
Right.
Yeah, they're all houses
Well,
now.
I don't know, is Forest Shade the building actually gone?
Mm-hmm. That's where
Okay.
Pipers live. Isn't that right, George?
Yes.
That's where Pipers live now, but the schoolhouse and the foundation and everything, I think the foundation's gone. Yeah. When,
Claire, do you remember the night the steers got out? Why don't you tell them about the change of Dave Page's house? It used to be a dairy farm, and then, why don't you tell them about that?
Oh, no,
Silver
cows
Bird
were in
had
the
it?
barn before they came, but that's all tore down now.
How many steers they have?
Yeah, and then we fed steers there a while, 500 steers.
oh my gosh.
No glory.
And what happened on Thanksgiving Eve?
That's when the steers went to see Charlotte.
They wanted turkey, all 500.
Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Marvin and Claire were out most of the night, not on tractors or whatever.
Rounded them up and put them back in.
The old Grange Hall over here was moved from up there in back of where that house is, where Kerms was.
Behind David Page,
Yeah.
the Grange Hall was
It was
moved.
called Fernwood Academy.
That's why it's
And that
called
would be
Fernwood.
moved.
Okay.
They moved that on wagons down and placed it down here in Daleville where it is, well, where the building is now.
Do you know why it was moved?
No, I don't know why. But Lat McClellan told me that they moved it. He said his father helped to move it. I guess they bought it from the Fernwood Academy and then used it for the Grange Hall.
We thought it was
That
the,
was
didn't we think it was the post office? We thought it was the post
It
office
was
that
a
was
school,
moved.
private school at
Okay,
one time.
okay. The Grange Hall
Grange,
was,
mhm.
okay.
Was Fernwood School.
Academy a girls' school?
No, not always, because my uncle went there and they put him out because he used bad words.
That school's been empty.
Well, Alan, when was it moved?
Lat told me it was 1912, or, yeah, 1912.
Okay.
That's something like
A
that.
few years ago.
Now, Mance, didn't there used to be a building like right in your front yard that they voted in, or else it was the post office? I thought Ruth had a picture of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's talking to you.
Oh, you talking to me?
Mhm.
Yeah, there used to be a,
Stay alert, boy.
Right there in my driveway,
Yeah.
heading out towards the stop sign like,
Okay.
there'd be a great big building there, 2 stories.
Mm-hmm.
It was
That's
a
where they
blacksmith shop
went to
and a
vote.
post
That's
office
right.
Oh,
one
okay.
time. And then you'd have a voting place in there.
How
Oh,
late
okay.
did they vote there?
Huh?
How late did they vote there?
My
I
parents.
don't know, they was,
About 6 o'clock.
no,
I was waiting for
I
that.
don't know.
No, the
I don't
polls
know that.
closed at 8.
The polls.
But
Polls
they,
closed 6.
they tore it all down. After I moved there for a while.
But after they tore it down, then they started voting at the Grange, right?
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a small village in Londonderry Township on Route 926, about a mile west of Gap, and Newport Pike was a name honored of George Dale, who became its first postmaster in 1852. The post office, however, was not named Daleville but Londonderry, and except for 15 months in 1859 and 1860, it was used from January 5th, 1848 to May 15th, 1909. It was known for Timothy. It was one of the first Irish communities in Pennsylvania and was first named Londonderry for a city in Ireland. Fernwood Grange was lent its name at one time to the settlement of Londonderry Township.
There you go. That's it.
I think, I got a story. Londonderry has an old Indian campground, and I was fortunate enough to farm that area for 17 years. And I found 2 tomahawks and a lot of arrowheads, a lot of different Indian artifacts. And the property is, see, if you're going 926 before you get to 41 from, well, you're going east, you're leaving Fags Manor, but it'd be on the right. And it was a big farm, it was 185 acres in all.
Does he mean where you live?
And there's an oak tree there that's
Where we going with
magnificent. I think it would be worthy of a picture on the calendar, you know. But when you go down 926, always look to the right, way down there, you'll see that beautiful oak tree.
No, I don't know where it
It's
is.
the old Cohen place.
The Cohen place.
Yeah.
And 100 feet from that
Where's that?
tree, that's where I found this tomahawk. I took a picture of it today, took it to CVS, I watched it come off the roll, came home, and it wasn't in the pack, so.
Oh.
So anyhow, but I really found a lot of artifacts, other people has found them over the years. And if you go back here in the summer, you'll still see tracks where people are looking for them. And that is certainly a prominent part of Londonderry.
Right, right.